true innovation and the true idea development is just the consistent stick-to-itiveness that you have at it. And obviously, hard work and all that, but it's just like, as you just can consistently keep doing something positive for your idea every single day, even if it's like you take 1 hour a day on it, it's just like you're going to progress so much. Then it'll just be like, man, like, why won't I start this kind of thing?
In Napoleon Hill's timeless classic, Think and Grow Rich, he defines a mastermind group as the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. In this podcast, that coordination is created between you, me, and our amazing guests. Our definite purpose is achieving extraordinary results in your business and your life. I'm your host, Brad Mulvey. Welcome to the Millennial Mastermind Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Millennial Mastermind Podcast. Today we're joined by guest Jared Smith, who is the co-founder of a company called Numa, who created an organic, simple ingredient sports drink to combat some of these crazy high sugar content drinks like Gatorade and Powerade. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. And Jared is just a awesome dude. Gave me a tour of their facilities with his brother Brandon, and they're doing some big things. So I encourage you to stay tuned for the episode and check out drinknuma.com to learn more about their drink. Also, if you haven't had a chance to leave a rating or review for the podcast yet, I would be super appreciative if you wouldn't mind doing so. That just helps other people like yourself to find the show. So with that, we'll dive right into it. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, I'll go ahead and kick it off. Sitting here today at the Numa headquarters here with Jared Smith. Jared and I were connected through a mutual friend and previous podcast guest, actually, Pete Hansberger. Good episode for anybody who wants to learn about the Buffalo mindset. But Jared, you are the co-founder here at Numa and one of the owners. So would you mind just giving us a quick background on yourself, the company, how this whole thing got started, that we're now sitting in this awesome office and warehouse space?
Yeah, absolutely. So Numa, it's a organic, simple ingredient sports drink. So we try to think about a from the earth replacement for your typical Gatorade, Powerade type of thing. And so things started for us. We were, Brandon and I, my brother, co-founder, we were hockey players growing up. We're from Cleveland. Ended up playing college, a little bit in the minor pros, and just like any young teenage kid, I'd say, was pretty excited for the free stuff that came along with it. And part of that was free sports drinks. And me in particular, as I got to college my freshman year, I kind of realized this, like, as I'm chugging these things down on the bench, I was getting like acid reflux from it. It was upsetting my stomach a bit. And yeah, it was just something that, like, I was like cutting it with water to try to figure it out. And it's just like, at that time, I really wasn't like, oh my goodness, this is a product. Let's make this thing happen. And it was just like an issue that I had that I just kind of dealt with for the next couple of years. And then come my senior year, had a conversation with our now business partner, Chris, about sports drinks. And he's like, hey, I know you have these issues. I have these issues. My kid has these issues. You ever think about trying to start something or look into finding a product that, at the very least, that could solve your issues? And answers were no. I literally had just finished taking an entrepreneurship class. It was my second semester, senior year of college. So I had a light course load. So I was just like, all right, let's just do this.
Nice.
Yeah, and Brandon was playing, it's similar to like baseball, single A, double A, triple A majors. He was playing double A hockey. And so, days end at noon in that world. So he had plenty of time. And like basically right after we had this conversation, loop Brandon in, is just like, hey, I don't even know what this is. But we're doing this project. Do you want to help? And that's literally how it started. of us just going down the route of, and at the time, trying to figure out, can you make a non-acidic sports drink? Mm-hmm. So it was tons of Googling and just asking, who can I ask? They had a pretty good entrepreneurial program at my school, and just started to just ask people to connect me to whoever may be able to answer some questions, and talking to nutritionists back here in Cleveland if I could get on the phone with anybody. And so it was literally like I just picked up another course and treated it like that. And it's funny, I was getting powdered samples sent to the hockey house that were in like unmarked clear plastic bags or whatever. And it was just like mixing them up and having my buddies try it, and tasted awful at the time. But it was just, that's truly how it started. Had that issue, couldn't find anything that we really liked, and just kind of went down that rabbit hole. And for the next year and a half, after I graduated, I played same level as my brother. So we were spread out all over the country. So his minor league team's actually in Missouri. Mine was in Anchorage, Alaska. Wow. Chris is from California. We had a consultant out in New Jersey. So it was just like, we're all over the place, like trying to like
time zones.
It was crazy. Well. Like Google Drive saved us, kind of thing. Brandon would rush home from practice because, all the time zones, whatever. So and we were again at that year and a half was, how can we develop this, and then building the brand. And, like I said, instead of playing Xbox like our buddies were, we were building Numa once we got home from practice, basically that whole year. Again, just developing the product, the brand, and all that. And at the time, as we look back, it was just like, I didn't do too good job of building that product and brand. And then, so that was, I graduated college in 2012. And for all real intents and purposes, launched 2014.
Okay.
So that was really the founding story of how it came to be. And, over the next couple years, it really changed and iterated a lot.
I bet
it was, whether it's formula, and we're on formula number 8 or 9, and we've been on the market for 4.5, coming on 5 years. So it was just like we were just rapidly learning, changing, really simplifying and understanding what our audience wanted, to kind of finally bring it up to where it is today.
So with the formula piece, was that just experimentation and trying different things, or did you guys, hire anybody, bring in any food experts? Just curious how the whole thing, especially in those early days, came
Absolutely.
together.
So as you can imagine, it's like we had no clue about the beverage industry coming out of college and playing hockey, other than we drank a lot of drinks, just like anyone else. So first thing we really did was, all right, let's get someone in here that can just give us some good guiding principles. And so we, luckily had easily to make a couple calls, and got in contact with Kristen Kirkpatrick, and she was the leading dietitian of the Cleveland Clinic's Wellness Institute. And so she really helped us on, more than anything, the fundamental principles that we wanted to hold through making just obviously a sports drink, but also just a drink in general. And it was great to have her influence as, her nutrition and dietitian influence on a quote unquote performance type of drink, where she was real ingredients, no added sugars, don't add extra calories if you need them, where it wasn't totally hey, there's definitely the science of the hydration, but it was actually also bringing in the smart nutrition of what was going on in that, whether the science says it or not, there's a lot of sports drinks out there that say you need 45 grams of sugar as a carbohydrate source to fuel your workout. It's just whether that's true or not, the logic of it, of how most people are using sports drinks, is just you don't need that. You 100% don't need that. Yeah. And it's funny because there's definitely science on it's actually not going to be better for your hydration, that it slows the hydration, and fluid absorption have that much basically just stuff in your drink that the electrolytes don't get absorbed as quickly if there was less. So it's kind of a double whammy. But yeah, so that was the advice that we got early on that really we took to heart. And probably didn't actually match up the actual ingredient label to that until it was a couple years in, to actually like truly be in on all of that advice. Then yeah, to also the same thing with like flavor developers and partners and manufacturers and all that. It was just like, call someone. Yeah, again, I had a consultant just help us get in contact with people, and just kept going until you got an answer.
Very nice. And so you started it because you had these issues with traditional sports drinks. So was your target audience then specifically athletes like yourself? And if so, has that changed, or is it still a similar audience?
It's interesting because it totally was that idea. And again, it started as like a non-acidic sports drink for athletes. And then fast forward, it definitely has evolved, and obviously we still don't add any acidic preservatives, but it is a lot more about just a clean label. And again, using real and organic functional ingredients as opposed to, hey, this is a pH balanced drink. And so that in itself evolved. And then the target audience being, I thought it was for my buddies. Especially at the time, and things have changed a lot, I'd say, in the past 5 years. But the idea of an organic, no added sugar, super low calorie drink to the kids that just ate a whole pizza and drank 30 Natty Lights the night before, it's just like, they'll drink it because they're my buddy, but like it's not like they would be like fired up about it. And I think that was one of the biggest things that we took on as a company, is an approach to just like, the original idea is probably not the right one. Let's go out and see who actually is resonating with this. And what we came back with was just yoga, spinning, CrossFit, run clubs, really people that are a bit older, are now kind of transitioning out of their sport or athletic career and into like a fitness and wellness lifestyle. They still have this huge passion for living healthy, staying active, and, make that a priority in their life. But it's not about, hey, can I make this team anymore? It's just, I'm now a part of, this running community. And I got my yoga crew or whatever it is, that it's a much more holistic lifestyle type of audience, in terms of their approach to fitness and to healthy eating. And that's where a lot of our success was, and our ingredients, and our package and all of that started to really hone in on, understanding that, hey, that target audience may not be the exact same as what we initially thought it was.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting, because I think a lot of individuals who are thinking about starting a business have this belief that at launch date, it has to be, the final iteration. Yeah. You have to have everything figured out. But I love your story because, you said you're on the 9th version of the formulation. It's an iterative process, and you learn as you go, and you can make change. Obviously, you want to start with your best foot forward, but there's the opportunity
there's such a balance that you need to take between launching projects. Like, we're huge proponents of just like, hey, we need to get stuff out there. Also, you need to make sure it's good in quality, and like it's well thought out, and yes, got to make sure you check all those boxes. And at the same time, understanding that it's just like, if you're not taking some risks, if you're not just letting things live and see what happens, just like, you're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be actually able to answer all the questions that a consumer has in terms of, is this something that they really need? It's just like, you're just not going to be right on the first try. And if you don't get out and take that, that incremental approach towards getting yourself to where it really needs to be and being open towards it, and just like, if you're not getting some failures, you're probably not pushing hard enough, and pushing the boundaries hard enough. And, it's just like, especially in an industry like ours, if we came in and played inside the box, it's probably the safest way to fail. Just like there's a Gatorade already.
Right. You're talking about probably some of the biggest marketing dollars in the
biggest marketing dollars
in the consumer packaged goods world.
Absolutely. And so if you try to just build a slightly better mousetrap, I don't know how you're going to succeed unless you have money to build a similar type of mousetrap.
Sure.
Which we shockingly don't have. So.
Well, on that front, on the money front, how did you guys get this thing financed in the early days, because it is a physical products business and you do have inventory and shipping costs and all that stuff. So
definitely capital intensive, particularly up front.
Right.
And we were lucky. Our other partner, Chris, was angel investor from the start there.
Oh, very nice.
So it was nice to be able to kind of, okay, so that one part for the beginning, at least, to getting this off the ground was something that we didn't have to necessarily go outside of our own team for it.
Right.
And we could focus on, okay, let's just put our thoughts and energy towards developing this in the beginning. We have raised some friends and family. Haven't done any institutional investment, VC or private equity. We'll see kind of as it comes. It's just like we're definitely open, particularly to some good value add food and bev specific money. But yeah, up to this point, it's all been angel, friends, and family.
That's awesome.
So
good for you guys.
Yeah.
So have there been any points up to this point in the journey where you just thought you were at the end of the road? You guys looked around and said, "This might be it. We don't know if we're gonna get over this hump."
It's like, yeah. How many times? There was. I don't think we ever had lost a belief of that there was a market for what we're doing, that we're solving an actual need. So I think we've always been pretty unwavering on that, particularly because part of our marketing strategy and just like, we got in some advice early on. It's just like, you can't market to the scene. You need to be a part of the scene. And so we literally just like, all right, we're going to every workout that we can find. And so like we had so much in-person feedback, and just more than anything, the reception on the idea of the product was always there. So we always had this like, I know that people need this. There's definitely been times where we've made, again, pushing those boundaries in terms of going for it. Probably the biggest one was a formula iteration that didn't go so well, that we had a lot of inventory of. That was probably the point where it was just like, I don't think we ever doubted that we would figure it out, but that was just like, ugh.
some late nights.
Yeah, there was some late nights, and what are we going to do? And just like, if we totally believe in, we are, as I think, no matter what industry you're in, it's just like so obsessed with our consumer and their experience with our brand. And that iteration didn't really live up to snuff. And when you have hundreds of pallets of the stuff, figuring out what you do when you're a young cash-strapped company with, an iteration that you're just really not happy with, what do you do?
Right.
So made it happen, sold off as much as we could, and kept moving forward, kind of thing. So. And
when was that particular?
2015, I think. So a couple years in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the day-to-day of everyday crisis. That's for sure. And that was plenty early on. And there still is. There's new and different challenges it seems like every week there's a big one to come across. But yeah, it's been a lot of those types of things versus any real true catastrophe at this point. So
sure. And so when you guys got started, you're still in college really when this idea started to come about. And did you, and then you played hockey directly after. So you have no, business experience. You're not coming from a corporate background, a startup background, CPG background, any of this stuff. So where do you think you got the both the confidence and the know-how to really take this on?
Well, I think a lot of it is, one, from our upbringing and our parents, and then two, with the level of hockey that we played and the types of players that we were early on as you're growing up. Like, you're the goal scorer.
Yeah.
And you get all the cool roles. And as you get higher and higher, is understanding of like, obviously how much work goes into it, but also just like how you have to evolve and how you got to do things that you don't want to do. You know, again, like especially in a minors and pro, there's just like, it's a revolving door. And so guys and people always ask about like, oh, how much influence does like being an athlete and being, exposed to the highest level of whether it's nutrition and all that, and almost kind of like, yeah, these are like your people. Didn't you learn how to make a sports drink through that type of influence in hockey? And it's just like, it's so much more about the mentality that we took towards hockey at the end of the day, especially at the end of our careers, of just like, hey, like there's no guarantees. I'm not on a big time contract. Mm-hmm. There's someone that just got sent down that was playing in the NHL 2 years, and it's just like, I could be cut tomorrow. I'm basically on a weekly contract.
Right.
And you're living with that every single day. Granted, we know it's not life and death, but it's just like that type of being comfortable with the uncomfortable, and just like, hey, you got to go fight that guy. It's just like, I don't like fighting. It's just like, yeah, you don't do that, you're probably not going to be here.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, I think, where our business personality comes from. And then I think in specifically for us, we both had banking internships coming before. I was out in New York on doing the Wall Street. I worked for Merrill Lynch for a summer in their private bank, and Brandon did one here in Cleveland in Wells for Wells Fargo. And it's just not that I actually, like, as I was doing, even look back on it, feel like it's like, oh my God, that like, I hate that industry. It's just like, you realized, and it honestly took me probably a couple months of when I finished and looked back at it to say like, this just wasn't for me. It's like, I just couldn't see myself being in that industry for a career.
Right.
And again, this is funny. I mentioned it earlier, just like took an entrepreneurship class, that had us, pretty typical Harvard Business School type of class where it's like, okay, you're making, a bunch of case studies, and you're making, with a team, your own product or whatever, your own business, and you have to write the business plan and give the presentation and all that. And almost the awakening of, hey, you can, like, for example, like looking at Nike, I didn't even think in like almost until this class, it's just like, man, like there's thousands of people that work for Nike. Like you don't have to go work for like, again, like a bank or a consultant, especially coming from, it's essentially business background. There's so many things to do. And then there's just like almost this opening up of just like, you can start your own business too.
Right.
That it kind of just quickly happened for us, and almost for us, almost just like fell into it, of how it all kind of came together quickly. So, and then even today, especially as I look at kind of the marketplace of, it's so, I don't want to say it's not like easy to start a business, but there's so much opportunity with, frankly, just like the internet, of how much learning you can, like self-learning you can do, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
It's so like we spend so much time listening to podcasts, and so much time just like Googling and learning that, depending on the industry, it varies, but it's just like the toughest thing, the toughest barrier to entry that I see a lot of times is what you tell yourself, the story that you tell yourself of just like, but there's just like this reason I can't do X, Y, and Z. And then actually, as you kind of start rolling things, it's not like there's a gatekeeper saying like, no starting businesses for you, no doing your own thing. It's just like, all right, this is it. And like, obviously you got to raise money and like figure out legals, but it's just like, it's not like, it's truly just like, if you want to take it upon yourself to go do it, it's just go kind of thing. I think it'll just letting yourself not hold yourself to the story that it's too much of a barrier. Just like, I can't be that type of person. That it's just like, for whatever reason, we were really easily able to just kind of see like, wow, whatever, like, let's just do it. Like, what's stopping us from doing this?
Yeah. So. Yeah. And you're in an industry that if there were a gatekeeper, it would exist. You're in an industry of behemoths, who, if they could stop other people from participating, I'm sure it would have happened.
For sure.
So is there any advice that you have for any listeners or anybody that you might mentor who does run into those self-limiting beliefs of, I don't have what it takes to do this, or I don't know that I'm the person who can make something truly amazing happen.
I think that for one, it's you don't have to go and quit your day job right away. Mm-hmm. Granted, we didn't have a day job to start, but we did have that period of where we were working on it on the side, and that really did help to validate some concepts and some, whether it was fears or ideas, just like, is this actually something that people can get behind? That you're able to figure out a lot in your spare time, basically.
Sure.
And I think a lot of what you can do is just like mapping out just where you think you want to go, if you have an idea. And particularly in that beginning stage, it's just knock something off of the to-do list every single day. Mm-hmm. And that if you just keep going, that if there's that constant drip of progression, it's like you're going to wake up a couple months down the road, not even that long, of just like, man, I know so much more about this now. Then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, well now I actually have a plan to like how I would go launch this, or like who I need to see next. And it's just like, as you continually have that slow incremental learning and consistency towards it, that is just like, I know there's a place for it, but like big product launches and big like aha moments and all these things, like they can happen and there's a place, but it's just like the true innovation and the true idea development is just a consistent stick-to-itiveness that you have at it. And obviously, hard work and all that, but it's just like, if you just can consistently keep doing something positive for your idea every single day, even if it's like you take 1 hour a day on it, it's just like you're going to progress so much. Then it'll just be like, man, like, why won't I start this kind of thing?
Right.
So,
yeah, I love that, the consistency, because, you can have the most productive day ever where you just for 18 hours crush it, get all this stuff laid out on paper. But if you don't do anything else for a month and you only do that once a month, you're going to be moving very slowly, rather than if you do one small productive thing per day.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a productive day, but you still take action that day, you're going to end up net pretty far, a lot further ahead.
Yeah,
than
totally.
That other strategy. So if looking back now, is there anything, and my gut tells me there's going to be a few things, but is there one thing that you would have done differently if given the opportunity?
I think that we had an understanding of it, but like truly understanding that this is all about the consumer and their experience with your brand, and totally committing towards solving their problems. And we continue to work on it today. But making sure that your product and everything about it and your service, whatever it is just so remarkable for them, that'll make your job so much easier no matter what you're doing. That if it's worthy of them telling their friends about it, you'll solve a lot of issues. It's the concept of Purple Cow, Seth Godin book, of just like, if you're something that remarkable, I got to tell my friend about a purple cow. It's just like, it'll make your sales and your marketing and just everything about it that goes into it, that, okay, I'm making this for this consumer. I've done the research on them. And I know, especially in the beginning, you just like talking to them. It doesn't have to be a big old fancy, market research survey. Understand that, and then be so obsessed with that. That I think if we restarted, it would be an even heightened commitment towards that.
Was there an aha moment or a certain point in time where it really, that point was just really driven home, that you had to take a step back and kind of rethink your thought
I don't
process?
think there was a total aha moment. I think it was a gradual learning on it of how, as again, we kept iterating our formula for our product, that we kept learning that lesson kind of thing. And we did figure it out, and we were committed to understanding that. And I don't know how it actually would have been any different, of just like, cause we kind of knew, we felt like we knew that, but when you look back, it's just like, man, like that wasn't the core idea. It's just like that needed good development and work. And like, I don't know if we would have been able to get there right off the beginning. But it's like, I keep hearing this complaint. I keep hearing X, Y, or Z. I think that at least our openness towards it helped us. So there wasn't that one moment, I would say, but it was just, the continuous.
Right.
Yeah, this needs to continue to evolve. It would have been nice if we were able to knock a few years off of that if we were figuring that out before we launched. But yeah.
So where did the name Numa come from?
Yeah, it's interesting because the evolution of our name kind of matches our thinking towards who the target audience was. And so in the beginning, it was first name idea was Sevenade. So it's pH balance of 7, and we're a sports drink, so it's an aid.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, well, we're trying to be not your typical sports drink, so why do we want to put our consumers in that same mind frame? So then it turned into Refuel, REPHUEL. And then same kind of thing. It's just like, that seems like very sports drinky still, of like a tagline for someone. And then we just kind of came to it was just like, we need to just own a name, because at least at that point we had the foresight that we didn't know anything about where this probably will be in a couple years. And so Numa stands for No More Artificials.
Okay.
So it was something that was kind of a brand umbrella for us to again take something that we can own.
I love it.
So
nice. And do you think that coming up with this name and really being able to own this name and this brand has been beneficial then?
It has. At the same time, because we're in a package that doesn't look like a sports drink, and our original design didn't look anything to cue you off of light, refreshing drink. It can work both ways of just like, hey, Numa is Numa, but it also then we don't have that immediate connotation of what is this product, when do I use it, what's the benefit that I'm going to get out of this. And so I think eventually we're going to be really happy that we chose it, and we are currently definitely happy, but it does come at the counterbalance of communication of benefits, particularly early on, was something we struggled with.
Yeah,
but
a lot of customer education on the product,
tons,
and the brand.
And the name didn't help us out with that.
So if you could go back in time and talk to the 2012 version of Jared, who, this idea just started coming up and getting tossed around, and you guys are getting a little bit more serious about it, is there one piece of advice that you would give to yourself at that stage in the game for moving forward?
I mean, I'm tainted because I felt like we probably took it to heart, and it was just like, just be so open to learning and so open to not holding on to the original idea. And I guess we did that. But in terms of that one piece of advice, it would be that, and just to like stick at it.
Yeah.
Because it's not always easy, but truly that journey will teach you a ton, whatever the outcome is. So
is there a balance between that you've had to come to grips with of not falling in love with that original idea or concept and being willing to evolve versus staying steadfast in what you're doing and your line of thinking?
Yeah, I think that is something that we came into, of just like, what is core values for the company and also core values for the actual product itself. And it's just what fits within those and what doesn't. So if we make any iterations, it has to stay in line with what our core values are in terms of, even on the base level, just like clean quality, but even up to like organic and not adding in additives or any extra added sugar and things like that.
Right.
And really staying not up to date just with the fad, but of just like, what is the true trend of smart thinking in nutrition? And that's what we're committed towards. That like, that's a non-negotiable. But the actual ingredients per se can't change. I mean, so we use organic coconut water and sea salt for the base, and we love that and we're not changing it. But it's just the idea for us in terms of what we stick towards is just like, it could potentially have been organic watermelon water that also has a bunch of potassium in there and not a ton. But so it's just like figuring out what your kind of non-negotiable is definitely will help you stay true to what the brand or product needs to be, whatever it is for you. But then allowing yourself the freedom to operate. I think one of the things that the picture that we kind of paint with this in mind is, if you can give yourself a fence to go within, you can go right up to the edge of that fence. But if you don't have that fence, then, it's just like, if I have a bunch of kids that are playing, is the analogy is in a field, and then there's a road. If there's no fence, you have to stay 15 feet away from the road. But if there is a fence, you can go right up to the edge. You can't go outside of that. You play within your space, but you can go right up to the edge. So if you can find that boundary for yourself, you give yourself actually the freedom to be more creative and to try more things, but know what your fence is.
I love it. So yeah, you have to have that strongly defined, well-defined what it is, but stick within it.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Jared, I've been really enjoying this, and I know that people are going to love what you're talking about and want to learn more about the brand, the product, things like that.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you, or if they want to check out Numa and try it out, where can they go?
Absolutely. So, website's drinknuma.com, social media is @drinknuma. So that's the best way to find out just kind of what we're up to and more about the brand. A little less than a year ago, we actually rolled out nationwide at Whole Foods. So wherever you are, if you're close to Whole Foods, you can pick up a Numa.
Where will they find it in the store?
It'll generally, there's kind of like a on the shelf kind of smaller sports drink functional beverage set. So it's by some of the other coconut waters and the functional beverages next to like some of the other coconut waters, and then a lot of the stores have it in the cooler space, so you can check it there. And then unsurprisingly, Amazon's been growing for us at a nice clip recently too. So those are two places you can check it out.
Great, and that's Numa, Nooma, for anybody who didn't catch that in the show notes. But check it out. You were kind enough to send over some product. I got to try one of them before my fiance absorbed them, and she took the rest. But we'll definitely be restocking here soon. It's good stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so I appreciate it, man. This was a really fun interview, and I think a lot of people are gonna enjoy everything you've been talking about.
Hope so. Appreciate it. Thanks,
awesome.
Brett.
Hey guys, thank you again for stopping by today to spend a little bit of time with me and the rest of the Millennial Mafia. Just a reminder, you can find all of today's show notes at millennialmm.com/podcast. And if you haven't heard yet, I'm opening up my calendar to you, the listeners, to hop on a 15-minute call with me. The sole purpose of this call is to connect and get to know each other. I want to forge true relationships with you so that we can build up an amazing network and community of ambitious millennials who are going to be the leaders and influencers of tomorrow. If you're interested, please just go to millennialmm.com/call and snag a 15-minute time slot. I look forward to connecting with you. Peace out.